Okay, so tell me if you have ever heard any of these. Idaho is full of nothing but rednecks, bigots, farmers, and Mormons. Or how about this one? There are no jobs in Idaho. Or maybe you have heard that the only good thing to ever come out of the state of Idaho are potatoes. Sometimes my job as a realtor consists of house hunting, contract writing, negotiations, and problem solving. Other times, my job is all about answering questions and helping people explore our area, and I love it. Every single day, my team and I get asked some great questions, as well as some just kind of crazy and kooky questions about, well, what living in Idaho is really like. So in today's video, we are going to be walking through a number of repeat questions that we've been asked by people who are thinking about packing up and moving to Idaho, such as, is Athol, Idaho really a place, and if so, why?
Well, now that's a very good question.
Well, yes, Athol, Idaho is a real place, but why? Well, that is a very good and solid question indeed, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so first up, is it true that everyone living in Idaho drives enormous trucks? Which is often piggybacked with the question, will I have to sell my Tesla? Just straight out, no. Everyone in Idaho does not own a huge jacked up truck. But well, does it seem like many Idahoans have a special affinity for big wheels? I would say definitely. And well, trucks certainly do come in handy for those of us who love camping throughout the summer months, or hauling DIY projects home from Lowe's or Home Depot, or for those who own horses, or even for those of us who have small backyard funny farms like my family. Okay, so maybe there is a grain of truth to this stereotype, but trust me when I tell you that not everyone in Idaho is cruising around in a monster truck. You'll still find plenty of folks zipping around in their trusty sedans, compact cars, minivans, and of course SUVs. So while the sight of a convoy of trucks rolling down the highway might be a common one, rest assured that you won't be kicked out for driving your Tesla. Next up, is everyone in Idaho just crazy outdoorsy and extremely into mountain biking, trail running, and mountaineering? The quintessential legendary outdoorsy Idaho mountain man, equipped with a backpack full of granola bars, beef jerky, or rather elk jerky because of course he's an avid hunter, and don't even get him started on his GPS that only speaks in coordinates. While it is certainly true that many of us embrace the great outdoors, not everyone in Idaho is a wilderness warrior. Sure, some folks live for the thrill of mountain biking down trails or summiting peaks before breakfast. But, well, just as many prefer a leisurely stroll down Boise's tree-lined greenbelt and or a cozy night binging something on Netflix. And then there are quite a number of us who are just kind of somewhere in the middle. Living in Idaho will mean you will know a lot of people, so your neighbors, coworkers, friends, who love camping. And well, it just has to be said, for the vast majority of Idahoans who camp, well, there are a lot of us that definitely fall more into the category of glamping than, say, the hardcore rugged camper bucket. So no, not everyone in Idaho is a card-carrying member of the Extreme Outdoor Club. But hey, if you ever need advice on where to, I don't know, find a killer huckleberry picking spot, or where to find a great camping spot near a fantastic hot springs, well, there will be a lot of Idahoans who will be dialed and happy to point you in the right direction. Next up, is everyone in Idaho Mormon? The Mormon myth of Idaho, where every potato is blessed and, I don't know, every handshake comes with a pamphlet. While it is true that Idaho has a large Mormon population, not everyone in our state is donning a white shirt and knocking on doors on Saturday mornings. We've got a surprisingly large mix of people from all walks of life who represent different faiths and beliefs. So no, not everyone in Idaho is a card-carrying member of the Latter-day Saints. But if you ever need a good potato casserole recipe or a scenic spot to enjoy rafting or ATVing, well, you will likely have an LDS neighbor who would be happy to help. And all jokes aside, we have several neighbors who are LDS and they are absolutely fantastic, and we truly can't imagine our neighborhood without them. Love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor. Next up, does everyone in Idaho own a horse and a gun? The classic Idaho stereotype, right? Every resident is armed to the teeth and just galloping around on horseback like it's Wild Wild West 2.0 or something. While it is true that Idahoans certainly appreciate our firearms, as well as the occasional equestrian adventure, not everyone fits the gunslinger on horseback bill. The vast majority of us fully embrace that, well, that it's 2024 and we prefer to have our main method of transportation be via car, truck, or bicycle or motorcycle. And well, you will certainly know people here here living in Idaho who have never ever been on a horse, which to me is sad, but to each their own, right? So no, not everyone in Idaho owns a gun and a horse. But hey, living in Idaho will mean that you will undeniably spot a few cowboy hats as well as jacked up pickup trucks with gun racks. And there will be plenty of horses and horse properties, and we sure do love our rodeos. So if you're passionate about riding, then Idaho could be a great spot for you. But well, just like running or mountain biking, riding certainly isn't for everyone. And if it's not for you, I promise we won't immediately revoke your residency. And trust that there is far more to do here in Idaho than just horseback riding and hunting. Next up, is everyone in Idaho completely anti-Californian and anti-transplant? While it is true that Idahoans cherish our wide open spaces and that the growth we have seen has at times been a bit concerning, not everyone is out there waving anti-California banners or throwing tomatoes at newcomers. And I guess a tomato would be better than a potato, right? Ouch.
Okay, potatoes, tomatoes, it doesn't matter.
Anyhow, sure, there will likely be some playful ribbing now and then about the increase in traffic we're seeing or avocado toast. And you will see some of those Idaho is full, move back to California kind of stickers. But well, across the board, the vast majority of Idahoans are very welcoming. As for the transplant issue, well, let's just say most are far more interested to hear your motive for moving here than they are in throwing stones. And as long as you arrive here without a hankering to change everything we know and love about our state, well then you should be just fine. So no, not everyone in Idaho is anti-California or anti-transplant, not even close. Next up, is it true that most areas in Idaho don't have electricity or water, like indoor plumbing? Now, of course, there are some areas that don't have these, such as vacant plots of land or other areas that are considered to be very off-grid. However, most of the state is fully equipped to offer both of these, as well as all the other major amenities anyone could ask for. We tend to save our outhouses for construction sites or big events, not for our homes. Hot and cold water and electricity are pretty much readily available wherever you go. But, well, keep in mind that Idaho is a huge state. So, of course, there are some areas where there won't be power lines for miles, let alone high-speed internet. But unless you really go digging into Idaho's backcountry, it is unlikely that you will have too many problems with basics such as electricity or running water.
Well, we do like both those things.
But then on the other hand, if that completely off-the-grid lifestyle is one that appeals to you, well, there are some options here in Idaho, many of which would likely mean you'd be relying on solar power or windmills. The vast majority of places like this are not lived in year-round and tend to be only used seasonally. Either way, please know that living in southern Idaho's Treasure Valley, so where I live, I'm in South Meridian with my family, that means I can have my coffee pot dialed to go off every single morning at 5:45 a.m., and I can trust that my electric toothbrush will be charged and ready to go. We really have all the modern day conveniences we need, and well, thank goodness for that, because, well, I personally love and need those things. Next up, and this one always kind of makes me laugh, are there moose everywhere? If you're envisioning a daily commute dodging moose like an extreme game of hopscotch, well, then I hate to burst your bubble, but, well, most of Idaho is not like that. While Idaho does have its fair share of majestic moose, I want to say mooses, but obviously moose is correct, they're not exactly holding up welcome to Idaho signs on every street corner. Most of these lumbering beauties prefer the peace and quiet of the wilderness. So if you are keen on moose spotting, your best bet is to head to places like the Panhandle region, so up near Bonner and Kootenai County, or to the Sawtooth Mountains, or to Bitterroot Range. Just remember to bring your binoculars. Maybe you'll get lucky and catch a glimpse of these largely elusive forest giants.
Yes, that's a moose.
That all said, if you live in a city in the northern part of Idaho, such as Sandpoint, which is very close to Canada, which is actually where my sister lives in Sandpoint, not Canada. But anyhow, if you lived in a place like Sandpoint, well, then you could expect to see a moose or two right in town somewhat frequently, just depending on the time of year. I actually called my sister to ask for specifics right before filming this, and she said that she had actually just seen one nibbling on a tree across from her kiddo's elementary school, so that's fun. Meanwhile, here in Boise, Idaho, well, I have lived here for almost 20 years now, and I have never seen a moose in our valley. Next up, is all of Idaho's public land really disappearing, i.e. being developed? While Idaho has experienced some incredible growth over the past decade, which we really just saw explode over the past several years, let's keep in mind that Idaho spans nearly 83,000 square miles, and then 20 million acres of that is public BLM land, which means that nearly a fourth of our state is open public shared land. I mean, sure, there is a lot of development happening, and you will see new subdivisions and shopping centers popping up, but we are really not paving paradise and putting up a parking lot on every square inch of wilderness. In fact, our dedication to preservation is incredibly strong here and has really, if anything, just grown stronger over recent years with all the growth we have seen. Next up, are winters here in Idaho incredibly harsh? The questions we have received about winters in Idaho. In general, winters in most parts of Idaho are significantly milder than most initially expect. That said, Idaho is an incredibly long state, and as the old real estate adage goes, it's all about what? Location, 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 right? In northern Idaho, so in places like Sandpoint and Bonners Ferry, you could, and if you choose to move there, should know that you can expect some serious snowfall and icy temperatures. And then typically, once the snow is there, it stays there for several months. So just know that about the northern area of Idaho.
Whoa, it's cold and beautiful.
If the thought of a ton of snow is just not your thing, then areas down in the southern section of Idaho, so around where my family and I live, near Boise, will likely be a better fit. Winters here are milder with less snow and more sunshine all around. Sure, you'll still need a winter coat and maybe a scarf or two, but come springtime, well, you won't look like a regatta-bound rower with incredibly calloused hands from shoveling your driveway 24/7. Next up, and yes, this is a serious one. Is Idaho in the Midwest? Nope, we're not. We're not in the middle. We are absolutely in the Pacific Northwest. As funny as it might sound, people do sometimes seem to be a bit confused about where exactly Idaho is situated. And nope, it's not close to Iowa or Ohio. All those O's and I's seem to throw people sometimes. We're tucked between 6 states. We've got Nevada and Utah to the south, and then Wyoming and Montana to our east, and Washington and Oregon to our west. Yep, Idaho is a long and just overall much bigger state than many initially remember from their 4th grade geography class. And now, on to the next one. I've heard that there is nothing to do in Idaho. Is this true? This is always a fun one, as I typically begin by saying, so I'm guessing you haven't had a chance to come visit us yet, right? And 99% of the time, this proves to be the case. When you come to visit, you will very quickly see that Idaho offers a huge variety of things to do. We've got hiking, skiing, hunting, snowmobiling, rafting, mountain climbing, fishing. Really, the sky is just the limit here. And then Idaho is also home to multiple cultural attractions, museums, and historic sites. It's sometimes a real shocker for some who just tend to think that we are living out the Little House on the Prairie lifestyle to hear that we actually have a large number of great events here regularly. From concerts to rodeos to Broadway plays to festivals. There is really always something to do and a new area, hot springs or valley to explore. And yes, we have shopping and a lot more shopping than many often initially expect to find. And then last, Idaho is pretty much a lawless frontier, right? While Idaho has a rich history rooted in the Old West, I can assure you it's a modern state with laws, governances, and a legal system just like any other U.S. state. It's not a wild and lawless frontier as sometimes portrayed by the media. I am quite sure it was back at some point when the Wild West was won, when, well, there were outlaws and the railroad was being built, but today there really is no lawlessness in Idaho. Interestingly enough, we are in the top 4 states with the highest gun ownership across the nation, with nearly 60% of Idahoans owning at least one gun. If you're curious to know more about our gun laws, we have a video in which we dive into that. I'll put the link to it in the description of this video. So on this note, yes, Idaho is a small government state, but that is certainly a far cry from being a lawless state. There are a lot of crazy misconceptions about living in Idaho, Idaho. But, well, Idaho really offers a unique and appealing lifestyle to so many. All potato and cowboy jokes aside, Idaho really does offer a truly unparalleled just array of outdoor activities, as well as a diverse and vibrant sense of community and connectedness. If you're looking to learn more about what living in Idaho could be like for you, please jot down our number so you have it on hand for whenever you're ready to take that next step. Or if you aren't quite ready to take that leap and hop on the phone, but you would like to continue to learn about what living in the Treasure Valley is really like, we have a fantastic and completely free, no strings attached relocation guide that you can download and peruse through at your leisure. I will put a link to it in the description of this video. And then once you're ready to take that next step, give us a call or shoot us a text or send us an email and we will set up an exploratory call. My very low pressure, but also highly professional and proven team are here and ready to help. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.